Anand.
Well, let me ask Professor Victor Gao, how would you read the Delhi Declaration, the economic corridor? Professor Victor Gao, what is China's position? There are talks where China is perhaps going to look at charting its own course, wean itself away from some of these multilateral platforms that are dominated by the West. Is that true, Professor Victor Gao?
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, allow me to congratulate the successful holding of the G20 summit in New Delhi, and I congratulate the Indian government, the Indian people, and Prime Minister Modi for really doing an excellent job in setting off one of the most successful G20 summits. Talking about the economic corridor, allow me to emphasize, if the economic corridor announced at the summit will be a success, I will be the first to congratulate it. Because from the Chinese perspective, if you are building connectivity projects, the more connectivity projects, the better. It will reinforce each other. So I don't see any conflicts between this economic corridor project versus the BRI initiative, which is supported by more than 100 countries, for example. If you are serious about building connectivity, the more connectivity projects, the better. Now, thirdly, when you talk about building a big railway project linking India to Middle East to Europe, I would say, first of all, India, according to my best judgment, really need to get its own railway projects at home really brushed up and upgraded. When was the time when the United States built its railway? It's at the end of the 19th century, and they haven't built any major railway for more than 100 years. And you constantly hear about horror stories about rolling over of the railways in the United States, and they travel at snail speed compared with the high-speed railway projects in China, which is the longest mileage you can even think about. Therefore, I think you need to really do your homework better. Rather than just talk about it, you need to do it in concrete terms. Thirdly, for the economic corridor to really take off, India and Pakistan need to improve their relations significantly, because Pakistan is in between what's being announced from India to the Middle East, etc. So there are lots of heavy lifting that you need to work out. And once you have an idea, it's great. How to get the idea really take off, it takes a lot of serious thinking. And when the United States talks about coming back, etc., they never left. Further, whenever the United States is talking about funding the project, you have to have second guess, because they really haven't really come up with any significant money supporting any major projects except military spending. That's for sure. So my advice to our friends and brothers and sisters in India is listen very carefully when Washington talks about funding or supporting the funding of the project. And you may say, well, Saudi Arabia, etc. I will bet with you, Saudi Arabia will be the last Arab country to recognize Israel. They will not take any risk in recognizing Israel, because they want to remain the fierce defender of Islam, the two holiest mosques in the Middle East, etc. So any fantasy about imminent improvement of Israeli-Saudi Arabia relations probably is overblown. So my advice, again, be realistic, and if it is successful, I will be the first to congratulate. And hopefully the BRI projects in many countries will intersect with this economic corridor project, and all of us will win, because connectivity projects reinforce each other rather than defeat each other.
Victor Gao had a lot of points to say it's not going to fly. That's his first thing geopolitically. But it's not just rail, it's ports, it's rail, it's road, it's a combination of all of this, and nations will have to come together. More importantly, the intent was clear, because 3 or 4 nations said how long and how soon are we going to get it started? When are we getting action on it? And that seemed to be the intent. Sushant, Sareen, quick word, and we'll bring in Puneet Sahni, because then we'll also traverse the one path that we've not spoken of yet, Canada and Justin Trudeau. But Sushant, Sareen first. Yes.
Anand, I think it's very important to challenge some of the stuff which Professor Gao has said. Number one, I think it's rich coming from the Chinese that India should make up with Pakistan. Not that any connectivity is happening through Pakistan. We are going through the sea. The Chinese, however, are violating our territorial sovereignty by coming and building that CPEC project of theirs, which has not really taken off. it has nothing to show for it. And it's a logistical nightmare. It's going to be a failure. It's very clearly, but it was done for geostrategic reasons. They wanted a port. They're probably going to get it from the Pakistanis. But even if you accept that the CPEC was going to work, the Chinese would have come from the using a land route, come to a port, and then use the sea route to go and access other markets. It was not that the corridor was only between China and Pakistan. Right? It was to get access to other markets. Now, if we use the sea route first, and then the land route, and then again a sea route, then this corridor is not viable. But the Chinese use a route through the most difficult mountainous terrain in the world at 15,000, 16,000 feet, mountains which are very weak, which can collapse anytime. And there is no railway line out there. It's only a road project coming. There's no pipeline out there. That is viable. But what we are building is not viable. So I don't know how that works. Number one. Number two, I don't see how the Pakistanis get involved in this project. Number three, on the financing part of it and the technology part of it. I'm sure Professor Gao knows that the Japanese are also part of this project. It's not just the Americans, but it's the Japanese. 5 of the G7 countries are part of it. Those 5 countries have fabulous technology as far as railways is concerned, including France. India has a lot of capacity and capability in building freight trains, right? And we are doing that right now. We have the capacity and capability of building modern railway lines, which we are doing right now. Okay. We build what we build in India according to our requirements. We don't build ghost projects. Ghost projects nobody is going to use and which are going to lose money, as much of these Chinese projects are losing both in China, outside China. So technologically and financially, this is an eminently viable scheme, much more viable than the money which the Chinese have been sinking in the BRI project. And let's just wait and see how many of those countries go and attend the BRI conference, because what happened in the last big conference which they attended when they were announcing BRI with great fanfare, I think a lot of countries have, that romance with this BRI project has ended. A lot of countries have woken up to the implications of what the Chinese have been doing, because it is their material, their people, their money, everything they put, they take all the benefit. And the country in which the project is built is left with this white elephant of a project, which nobody has any use.
I think we have seen many more examples of that in the neighborhood. I have to, yes, Professor Victor Gao, quick response, and then I'll go across to Puneet Sahni and we'll move the story forward. Yes, Professor Victor Gao.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me another chance. First of all, I started by saying if this economic corridor project really takes off and is a great success, I will be the first to congratulate all parties participating in this. That's the first point. Secondly, the distinguished Indian panelists talked about the BRI. Allow me to emphasize, if you talk to the Indonesians, they just celebrated the official launch of the fast-speed train between Jakarta and Bandung, and it will be further extended in both directions. If you talk to the Kenyans, they talk about the huge fast-speed train projects in Kenya, linking the inland cities to the coast. If you talk to the Ethiopians, holy cow, we've built highways, many other projects, etc. So, and if you talk to the Laos is landlocked, but then there is a railway connectivity already built, and it's the first kind of a fast-speed train in central.
Who owns the trains? Who owns the trains? Who collects the revenues?
You need to see everything.
And how many of these nations are financially healthy or are not caught in a debt trap with the CCP? These will be questions. This is a long conversation, so we'll have to park it for another day.